So I'll wander around a little bit. If you see pictures on the slides you want to take pictures of, that's completely fine. This session is being recorded. It is going to be available for a period of time. I think we're looking at the end of November. So you'll be able to access it after the fact if you have to leave early, if you want to go back. But if you have any questions, please reach out to me. Before we get started, I always like to start with an activation warning. And this has a lot more to do with, we're talking about mental health. We're talking about substance use. It can be sensitive subjects. So if you need to take a call, if you need to step out, please do so. I'm assuming everyone's familiar with the locations, but there's restrooms out in the hall. No food or drink in here. Please pick up after yourselves, all the things. But we really appreciate you being a part of this event. There is a lot of slides in here. It is a lot of information, but it's important information. But one of the things that I've done, this is something that you'll want to scan, and we'll make sure it's part of the follow-up email to everybody, is the link for our Old Drugs, New Threats folder. In that folder, you have what I call my sound bites. It's essentially a summary of my presentation. And there's drug fact sheets and information on best practices that is more than you probably ever could need, more than you ever possibly could want. But it's my way to keep you updated. So I update that folder regularly with different fact sheets as they come out and different resources. So anytime that you see that little blue download, that means there's a corresponding article. That doesn't necessarily mean that's on every slide, but it is something if you see it and you're wondering why, that's why. So a little bit about me. I've been doing public health for 24 years. Over the last few years, I've been helping and traveling around the country with Tall Cops organization to bring awareness around the issues. As a public health person, I always like to tee it up with how we look at addiction differently. We go through a lot of the different trends, and then we'll end with the what you can do's about it. So some slides I may go through kind of quickly. Some slides I may spend more time on, but I just want to let you know that all this information is in that drive, okay? So we'll make sure this is part of the follow-up email that you guys will get from the school. So addiction, very basically, is the ABCDEs. Is the person able to abstain from the behavior? Again, this is any addiction. This could be gambling, this could be sex, this could be porn, this could be substance use. Are they able to abstain from the behavior? How is it that it's impairing their behaviors in general? This comes from the American Society of Addiction Medicine, by the way. I should make sure I mention that. Does a person have a craving for it? Is there a hunger, whether it's psychological or physical? Are they able to recognize if it's impacting them in many different areas? And the last part is, what is their emotional response? If I said, I think you drink too much, and the immediate response is, no, you drink too much. You should see how you are, blah, 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 blah. I'm from Wisconsin. That's my usual response. That's what usually comes. But in the years that I've worked on, this has really changed over time. But what we need to remember is majority of the issues impacting our community are not due to those with addiction. It's usually about 20% of those that abuse or misuse different substances would qualify under that. Majority of it is those that would qualify under misuse, using on the weekend, using in excess. So this is something that I always like to put out there, and the fact that we know that things contribute to it, whether it's genetics, it's about a 50% chance if you have addiction in your family. Things like tolerance, using more to get the same result. Looking at adaptation, so you're using to avoid withdrawal. All of these things can contribute to addiction. And the last one, the trauma response, this is something I talk with the kids a lot about when I do my presentations, is because it's not only what happens within our homes, things like divorce, addiction in the home, incarcerated parents, abuse and neglect. It's what's happening around them in the community, things like poverty, job insecurities, food insecurities, structural racism, and so on. But then that last part, what's happening in the environment. They are exposed 24/7 to things like war, tragedy. The pandemic really set a lot of us back. All of these things can contribute to a person's higher likelihood of using substances, struggling with their mental health, and potentially developing an addiction. But we know that there's no magic pill. Relapse happens. This is a chronic brain disease. It's something that we need to continue to look at. It's a monster in the parking lot every single day of addressing and paying attention to. And I think one of the things when we look at this, it's really about combination therapies too, using some sort of medication to help with if it's a mental illness that maybe is contributing to it, or mental illness that is part of their addiction, as well as some sort of counseling. That really does work best. But it is really person specific, and we don't get here overnight. But the teen brains are wired for impulsivity. If you're not aware, the brain develops until your mid-20s. The last part of your brain to develop, your prefrontal cortex, the good idea, bad idea part of your brain, I like to call it, that's a part of your brain where when you go out and you're like, I'm gonna have one drink, and you have three. I'm gonna park my car and get a ride home, and then you maybe end up driving. We make a lot of bad decisions when we use substances because the first part of our brain to be impacted is that prefrontal cortex. So if you drink alcohol, it kind of absorbs backwards, if you will. So good decisions go right out the window. And for teens, when our brains aren't wired in a way that is a safe and healthy way, you can imagine the issues. And we know that addiction does live in the brain. We know that it does affect our different levels, our serotonin levels, our dopamine levels. So anytime that we're using, we kind of falsely get this feelings of joy and happiness. And when we take that substance away, that's where you have a higher likelihood of things like depression, anxiety, because your brain can't really function on its own. So when I talk to kids, a lot of the times we talk about things like that perception of risk. You know, they have friends that use it, they see stars that use these substances or do these things. All these things can contribute to it. And it's important to acknowledge that things like peer pressure doesn't just stop in high school. It's something that continues as we age. So when we talk about substance use, this really can go across the lifespan. So one of the resources that is in the drive is called The Science of Addiction. It's a great resource. It's actually a PDF multi-page resource that talks a little bit more about brain science, but I just kind of wanted to tee it up just a little bit because I think it's important just to have that little bit of understanding when it comes to addiction. So for anybody that came in later, I'm not saying late, you guys are just great. I'm glad you're here. One of the things that I did share is that I do have a whole Google Drive full of resources and my sound bites, which is pretty much a summary of today. All the trends that I list are in a handout. And again, that's one of the things specifically I'll make sure is part of the follow-up email that has the recording link. We are recording this session. The session is being live streamed as well, and it will be available through the end of November to folks. So if you have to leave early, or if you want to go back and look at it or share it, you can always do that. So this drive, like I said, it's a treasure trove of all the things. Let's just start there. So one of the things that I do need to make a caveat is the whole term overdose in its own does have a negative connotation to it. If a person dies of cancer, our first thoughts are, you have my sympathies. We have this non-judgment. If a person dies of an overdose or a person is hospitalized due to an overdose, that impact of that word. So we're trying to get away from that, trying to look at it more using the word poisoning as an alternative, but you may hear me talk about what does an overdose look like in certain substances. It doesn't necessarily mean death. So it is something just to point out. But when we talk about drugs of abuse, it is a game of whack-a-mole. Literally, every time we think we have a handle on it, something else comes up. So as we're going today, and that's part of the reason why we have the recording available for a shorter period of time, is because things outdate so quickly, is that it's very hard to keep up on it. Again, another reason why if you're interested in getting to know more and knowing all the headlines and some of the trends and new products, definitely want to sign up for that newsletter. It's free. If you don't like it, you can unsubscribe. Those of you that came in a little later, there are some business cards on the side there. I have more if we run out. Share with your friends. And we'll get to that slide again later where you can sign up. So when it comes to drugs, it's any substance you put in your body that impairs its ability to function. It could be caffeine, it could be nicotine, it could be cannabis, it could be alcohol. It just really affects, if we're here at a homeostasis, we want to be at a level, it's the things that bring us up, it's the thing that brings us down, it's the thing that maybe bring us back up to normal. So depending on the substance, this is really the most basic definition. It's something that's easy to understand. It's just something that we're introducing into our body. Potentiation is on some of the slides. This would be adding substances together to increase the impact. So adding Benadryl to an opioid will increase that high. So, for example, this will be on some of the slides. So just in case I don't explain it again, I want to make sure we're all on the same page and recognize that polysubstance use, when we use different substances together, it can increase our risk. If we use something like alcohol with benzodiazepines, like anxiety medications, it increases our risk for poisoning and or overdose death. So again, it's another important thing, and honestly, when we look at things like fatalities, we look at accidents, we look at calls for service, it's very rare that somebody's using one substance. There's usually some combinations there, so keeping those things in mind. So I'm going to start with, I call it old drugs, new threats, because a lot of the times substances will change their face. They'll change how we're looking at it. Like I said, it's a game of whack-a-mole, which you'll see as we go through some of the things. But for the sake of today, I really break these down into 4 categories, looking at stimulants, so anything that speeds up your body. It's like putting your foot on the gas when it's in neutral, really revving everything up. There's also depressants, which are the exact opposite, as you would imagine. It brings everything down. Our hallucinogens would be anything that really, it's called synesthesia, where it mixes up your senses, where things that are hard feel soft. You may see smells, you may hear tastes. It really does mess with you. And if you've ever been around somebody that's on a hallucinogen, it can really be kind of a freaky and almost, it can be a dangerous situation as well. We'll talk about cannabis as well with the different hemp derivatives that are available widely across the country. And then there's kind of this black hole of random things because they could fit into multiple categories. So we're going to get into all of this. Like I said, when I look at this, it's a huge presentation. So as we go, if you have questions, I will stick around as long as I need to tonight to be with you guys. But we'll kind of go through these things. And again, that Soundbites handout and the information that's available will be available for you guys after the fact. So just sit back. If you see something you want to take a picture of, go ahead. So as I mentioned, with our stimulants, you can see how it impacts the body. The stimulants, something like appetite depression, looking at things like cognitive enhancers. It's like mommy's little helper. You can see up here, I break these down into legal and illegal. So looking at legal, things like caffeine, nicotine, ephedrine, the amphetamines that are available by prescription. Illegal, looking at things like cocaine. Believe it or not, cocaine has not gone away. It continues to be around. Things like bath salts, which is another one that could go into multiple categories. Our stimulants really give us that fight or flight. I have heard people getting tased many times because they are high on a different, like methamphetamine, for example. And when we look at some of the old drugs, as I say, the threat hasn't gone away. Cocaine's been around for a long time. There's different players in cocaine now, where a lot of it came from Colombia. Now you got Mexico really getting into the trade. Looking at how it's made, how it's sold, when we focused on different substances, at least where I lived, again, I grew up central Wisconsin between the Twin Cities and Green Bay. We focused on prescription drug abuse. We need to talk about heroin. We talk about heroin. We need to talk about meth. We talk about meth. Oh, here's Coke. It just comes in. So we do see this. Chicago's a huge hub for cocaine distribution. Probably the stuff that you guys get here is from there. Methamphetamine's another one that hasn't gone away. It's just how it's processed. Every single day you see big busts at the borders where people will break it into pieces because it's easier to get pseudoephedrine in places like Mexico, and then they'll bring it back up to process in the U.S. to sell. So methamphetamine hasn't gone away. And I said bath salts. It's something that comes and goes. Synthetic cathinones is the formal message with that, or the formal name for that. It's not the stuff that you buy at Target. I remember when it was making a lot of big news, there's a lot of grandparents that were concerned about what they got for Christmas was going to get them high if they used it in the tub. What you're buying is the size of like a little Carmex container, like the old little baby containers. It's about $35. So it's sold as jewelry cleaner. It's sold as plant food. They continue to be available. With our depressants, a person may look drunk, act drunk, but they don't smell drunk. Many of us have seen somebody that's been impaired in that way. Your depressants impact you in the same manner. Typically, I look at these as narcotics and non-narcotics. This is a classification. If you take away that substance, if a person has a physical addiction, a person can pass away from alcohol withdrawal as well as benzodiazepines. Both of them are dangerous in withdrawal compared to some of the other substances like opioids. A person may feel like they want to die, but the reality is, unless they have a pre-existing condition, it's not necessarily life-threatening. So you can see the list here. We'll go through some of the trends related to youth, but it's just kind of, I like to give you guys kind of a baseline of some of the different substances. Again, just that quick snapshot of the things that never go away. I'm going to talk about fentanyl a little bit more. I've got a slide specific to it. Heroin, smack, if you will, AKA, there is no heroin anymore. Nothing really, I mean, and that doesn't mean it does not exist, but things have been cut so many different ways that you're never going to find pure heroin anymore, just because it can be cut with so many different things to make it go further. Same thing with opioids. I mean, we continue to talk about, it's the DOJ's, or DEA's, however you want to look at it, depending on your state does it, it's their take-back event at the end of the month, the last Saturday of October and the last Saturday of April. If you have medications in your home you're not taking anymore or expired, get them out of your house. It helps protect the environment, they're not getting the groundwater, it increases our public safety so then people aren't stealing them to abuse. And then the last part, the accidental ingestions by our pets and kids and others that could get their hands on it, it's just a really good idea. So we continue to definitely see those. With our psychedelics, like I said, it's a whole mind trip. It's where your flashbacks come. It is the oldest class probably of drugs that is out there. With these, I look at organic and inorganic or synthetic. Things like LSD and acid continue to pop up here and there. Ecstasy continues to pop up here and there. A lot of the times these things are mixed with other substances, especially when we talk about things like fentanyl right now. In the organics, it is not, and many people don't know this, it is not illegal for a person to buy the spores and everything they need to grow their own psychedelic mushrooms. At the point they start growing, that's when it becomes illegal. So I can actually order a grow kit or go to my local vape store and buy everything I need. And who doesn't, or who does, I should say, go into a kid's room and notice that it has an odd smell, because we know what mushrooms grow in. They grow in a lot of fertilizer. It stinks. If they have a weird smell in their room, and do we look under their bed? We had a whole bunch of officers in a place I used to work go into a location, and they ended up disturbing a kid's grow that was under his bed when they were doing a search. So, I mean, it is something that is possible, with psychedelics. The snapshot I put in here, peyote mescaline, we see that a lot in the news. It's a very traditional type of medicine in some native cultures. Ecstasy and MDMA, again, when we look at things, AKA Molly, it never goes away. Do people start with these substances? Not necessarily, but that doesn't mean that they can't. LSD and acid, there's a whole movement of art in the vape shops where it's all LSD tabs. So you remember the hole punches that got all over the place? It's about that size of a piece of paper. And it's art. It's like a picture on this. So you can put your LSD on it and use it. And the last one, I look at cannabis as the next big tobacco. I mean, the reality is, depending on how it's made, it's not grown naturally anymore. The THC that is in the plants that are grown is so high that they cannot survive the duration that they're naturally supposed to. So there's nothing natural about the plants that are out there. There's nothing natural about the synthetics that are out there. And when we talk about the influx of hemp derivatives, with Indiana being a non-adult use state, obviously you guys are close to adult use states where there are dispensaries and there are these products. Something to consider is that all of these hemp-derived products are exactly the same packaging, similar flavors, similar styles, and it's like the Wild West. They're unregulated. So I'm going to get into those hemp derivatives in a little bit. And with hemp, it's really based on how it's made, what it looks like. Sativa would be your daytime pot. Your indica would be indica, or your nighttime pot. And then you could do your hybrids. So if you went in and you said, I'm looking for something at the end of the day to unwind, that doesn't make me too tired, so I could stay up with my kids, they'll be able to prescribe you by a bud tender, not a pharmacist, what you should take. So whether you're going into a dispensary or you go into one of your local vape shops here, you can ask them for what you want and they'll be able to describe it for you. So if you want to know the ins and outs, this guide is available in that drive. It's actually available in Spanish as well, which is great. It's the first edition that was really easy, 2-page handouts. You can print them off very easily if you have a specific substance that you want to look at, but it is a great tool. I don't print off very many things, but this is one that I actually keep in my resources myself. So any questions on that big overview? Okay. Now I'm going to get into, when we talk about our youth specifically, the things that are widely available to our youth, whether it's age restricted or not, things that they may start with or not. We have seen trends change. We have seen less youth drinking. But when we have seen youth drinking, we've seen them drinking at higher amounts. And we've seen our young females drinking at higher levels than they had in the past when it comes to things like binge drinking. So we have made progress, but we haven't solved these issues. They are decade-long problems. And when it comes to the usual suspects, I think a lot of people are like, oh, the gateway drugs. If you use this, you're going to go to that. Not necessarily. But I can say this, if it's readily available, if it's widely accessible, if it's cheap, if that perception of risk is low and the parents or the community doesn't see this as an issue, you're increasing that risk. So I call these the usual suspects. I always start with caffeine because it's the one we forget. I'm not talking about a soda or a Celsius once in a while. I'm talking about high amounts of caffeine that a lot of the times are snuck into things. This picture up here was taken in my local Walmart. And my boys are big into fitness. They watch a lot of fitness videos, pre-workout, post-workout. You can see up in this corner, a traditional coffee serving has about 90 milligrams of caffeine. One scoop of the bazooka-flavored pre-workout drink is 390 milligrams in one scoop. So if you have kids that are doing pre-workout, have them check, what is it that you're getting? Not age-restricted. I could go to any store. What's sad is these energy drinks are more expensive than a bottle of water in some places. So they're cheap, they're flavored. I mean, you can see the different flavors that look familiar. There's Starburst. Prime is actually a brand. It was by Logan Paul, likes to fight people. Random people, it seems. His drink was actually banned in Canada, banned in other countries because of the high levels. It has about 300 milligrams. Remember that energy or that shake was 390? Celsius came up with one that's even higher than that. So Celsius, which I don't think I have that one up there. But once upon a time, it was a Red Bull and it was a Monster. This is just how things changed. It's about being aware. It's about understanding that now we have pouches similar to the Zyn pouches, which we'll get to in a minute, that are caffeine pouches. So not only are you getting the pouch that has the higher amounts of caffeine, which Grinds is probably one of the first ones I saw. Mike Tyson has the LF Go. You can imagine what the LF stands for. And then just today, these ultra pouches, if it's a little bit fuzzy, my eyes are fuzzy, it says, ultra pouches feature potent, powerful, and scientific-backed nootropics for optimized cognitive performance. But in the thing, it says, imagine if natural Adderall and Nick-free Zyn had a baby. So this is available on Instagram. This is available through Snapchat. You're seeing these things. I can order those products online. So it's about the drug culture and the product itself. So caffeine is one. Alcohol, it's not all boons and blats. I always joke, I am from Wisconsin, so this is life for me. But when we look at this, I have to laugh because White Claw is now like the Zima of seltzer drinks. It's so old that nobody's like, oh, I can't drink that stuff anymore because there's so many new products. So when we look at this, it's familiar brands. If you haven't seen these are in your store. And it's not about saying don't drink these. It's about understanding what is available. Because I can tell you that this Sunny D looks just like a Sunny D can. Unless you look closely, you might not know. Hard Mountain Dew, I saw a sign that said, you need to be 21 to buy. Because so many people must have been buying it, think it was like a new Mountain Dew, right? No. You've got mixers with familiar products. You've got very familiar brands. So I'm just kind of like letting that part sink in. We've also got new products. So they've got hard kombuchas. They've got hard, different hard sodas. They've got hard ices. So if you're seeing these, you maybe don't even realize that you're seeing alcohol. And again, these are sold at the bottom dollar price. These are actually cheaper than some of your energy drinks in the gas stations. 2 for $3, 2 for $4. What packs a punch here is these, some of these, actually I think I have the serving size on the next one. Going back to endless flavors, folks. Every kind of cider, every kind of Malibu, 100 types of vodka, and so on. Serving sizes, here we go. So you've got the biggie balls. These are 4 servings per little container. They're sold usually at the checkouts. Easy to steal, they're right in front of you. Then they've got the biggie balls, the bigger ones, 15 servings. Again, not relatively inexpensive. I've been at stores where they have Fireball as a keg. Definitely around Christmas. You're gonna see a lot of stuff in the stores at Christmas. So entertain yourself, check it out. But these cans, you have Mike's Hard, that was 5% by volume. That would be a standard beer. So if you drink Miller Lite, Coors Light, 12-ounce can, that's what that is. If you drink an IPA and you go to your local brewery and get a 16-ounce glass, because of their high alcohol, you're actually getting 1.5 servings per glass because they're usually around 9%. So we have to consider serving size and potency. But these are sold for nothing in different stores. So just, again, understanding that these are available. Trends around alcohol, trying to be the healthier version. Blackout Rage Gallon was one that was pushed through TikTok. It continues to pop up in TikTok here and there. It's not drinking out of kegs in the middle of the woods, right? It's looking at how can we drink it healthier. So taking a gallon of water, dumping in a whole bottle of booze, and adding some sort of flavoring is almost a game on some college campuses. With this being a college campus town, you maybe have seen this. So when you're doing highway cleanup and you see gallons with writing on it, you may have a problem here. But again, TikTok continues to push these things around. And when I talk about the news to me's, when I go to stores, I always am looking. This, I'm like, who the heck wants to drink cereal-flavored alcohol? But whatever. If that's what people want to do. 15% alcohol, they're cheap, they're just like BuzzBalls, widely promoted through TikTok and other places. So it's about being aware of what's available. So alcohol isn't going away. People are getting really inventive with it. I see one of my videos didn't show up, but there is a great video around nitrous. One of the things I brought up earlier when the kids were in here, I'm like, school year before last, every single TikTok that my son got, who was 15 at the time, half of it was whatever he was watching, the other half was Galaxy Gas. How many guys have heard of Galaxy Gas? One, couple. So Galaxy Gas is nitrous oxide. So essentially what people are doing, what's being sold as, is whipped cream, gourmet whipped cream of different flavors and smells. And these, like this, comes up to here on me. So I don't know anybody that's whipping out this big can to be able to get your whipped cream, flavored whipped cream onto things. But nitrous oxide is a pretty potent gas. It's relatively inexpensive. Essentially, they'll open up the gas and put it in a balloon, usually, and breathe it in. It's, if you've ever done a whip it in your life with Ready Whip, that would be nitrous. But this is like supercharged. High, it's a very intense high, it's very quick, and it's very widely promoted through socials. It is something that comes in different sizes, it's different flavors, you can see kind of what it looks like. We know that it is something that kids experiment with, it's something that is available in some of our homes for innocent purposes as well, but you can go to Amazon and buy these. It's something to consider when we talk about restrictions on different things by age. If you go to Walmart, you're going to get carded. If you go to Amazon, of course I'm 18. If you go to their sites, of course I'm 18. So we've talked about alcohol, we talked about caffeine. Let's talk about vapes. Definitely tobacco is changing. What we know what was is no longer, and it has a lot to do with the way that nicotine has been processed. Traditional tobacco in the old school vapes, it was very harsh. It was harsh on the lungs. A lot of people, you kind of cough, you couldn't hold it in, you couldn't do the great plumes and things that you see widely promoted. The nic salts, so nic salts, the way the nicotine has been reformulated, makes it so you can bring it in deeper, hold it in longer. Nic salts is what's in the Zyn pouches, or the other pouches that are like that. Nic salts is definitely something that is more of a intense high, which makes nicotine such a strong drug. I've heard of people refer to it as even stronger than things like cocaine when it comes to stimulants. So we do need to talk about nicotine. We need to continue to talk about it. And it's long past the Juul. I mean, Juul's like the White Claw, right? You don't necessarily see too many Juuls anymore. However, Juul is one of the brands that was approved by the FDA, which I'll get into in a little bit on what that means. But many of our vapes now can be things like Bluetooth, can be things like games, can be used to answer your phone. Here's some of the pictures up here. There are some that are adjusted. So if you ever ate the Nerds that had the 2 flavors on the top, you can adjust your vapes, you know how much of the sour that you maybe get with the sweet, or the cool that you'll get. So all of these are available online. All of these are available in stores now, presently. That may change. I'll talk about what happened with Wisconsin law here in just a little bit. But these are what's available. When I go into these vape stores and have conversations with the sellers, though, they're like, these are a gimmick. These are expensive. The batteries die. A lot of these disposables die before they can even use all the puffs that are in them, which is why disposables now are rechargeable. What happens to these devices when they're empty? Trash. Think of all the garbage that is piling up because of the rise in disposables. Like I said, these I've seen anywhere, some of the highest amounts I've seen. I haven't seen 60 US yet. 60 is available in Canada. That's just a matter of time before we see that here. 50 is the max that I've seen. 50,000 puffs. When these first came out, they had 500. So it just goes to show that there's a lot of money in this. A lot of these companies are, and again, I cite kind of where they come from, but I mean, Rodman has vapes. Different tobacco companies have vapes. When we get into the hemp derivatives, different popular stars have these vapes and promote them. So it is something, a wide variety of flavors, any flavor combination you can imagine. People refilling their vapes is really a thing of the past right now. But the more that we look to regulate on a national level, on a state level, the different vape products, the more we can expect that some of these older trends are going to come back. And yes, there is such a thing as a nose vape. It kind of looks like Nerf gun bullets to me. I don't know why. That's all I can think of. But this was widely promoted. Last year I started seeing this. And the nose vapes are so you don't mess up your makeup when you're out. You know, you don't want to put your I'm thinking, okay, so people passing around a vape grosses me out anyway, a little bit, public health, you know, all the things. And I'm like, so you're going to pass around your nose vape now? Like just watching the videos. It's amazing what people come up with, these novel ideas, the things that they're promoting. But not only was there one type of nose vape, now there's like 4 types of nose vapes. So obviously there's money to be had in it. But the nose knows that this is possible. Getting into the nicotine pouches and the nicotine-free vapes, a lot of people will be like, well, there's no nicotine in this, I can have this. They're not necessarily wrong, because most of our laws are related back to the drug itself and not the paraphernalia that it is. But these products do contain vegetable glycerin, they do contain vitamin E. A lot of the things that were related back to popcorn lung, the things that EVALI was the term that came out a couple years ago. So kids that are using these early and often are developing lung conditions that you wouldn't see until someone in their maybe 50s or 60s. It's a significant injury people are continuing to overcome. With nic pouches themselves, there's no one brand. Zyn gets the most press. It's kind of like Juul did with the disposables. But I've seen Rogue, I've seen Mr. Fogg, Velo is another one. All of these are widely available. Not FDA approved. However, they are in the process of trying to get these things now FDA approved, What does that do? That normalizes it and then makes it more widely available. Big chain gas stations sell these. Small chain gas station or small mom and pop sell these. Vape shops have these. A lot of vape shops don't actually sell Zyn because it's hard for them to get their hands on. They're going to be selling the other types. So going back to those caffeine pouches, how hard would you be able to tell the difference between the caffeine pouch and these pouches? No. Be like, oh, it's just caffeine, Mom. I swear. We'll get into two. You can get cannabis pouches that look exactly the same. So you got nicotine pouches. This is what's happening in Wisconsin. So Wisconsin put in the law. I know that Indiana put some laws forward to look at regulating things like the hemp products. There's always conversations around these flavored vapes. So Wisconsin actually did move it forward. It did end up in courts. It's still being hung up. But what I'm calling out here is, so Wisconsin passes this. These flavored vapes are not widely available anymore. The vapes that are available that are FDA approved, Juul, which was connected to Altria, which is Marlboro's parent company. Marlboro, I'm sure we've all heard of Marlboro. Juul's on its own now, but Juul's approved. The Enjoy, that's another Altria, or no, that's the Altria. That's Altria company. It's another Marlboro company. Views is R.J. Reynolds, otherwise known as Camel. So Big Tobacco got in the FDA's door, and their products are the ones that are approved. The last one, this is a Japanese company, which I'm sure is behind some of the flavored vapes that we already have. So this doesn't mean that this is going away just because FDA approved these. It just means Big Tobacco got their foot back in the door. So even if states ban it, you're still going to have these products available, but they surely are not the fun flavors that attract a lot of our youth, because that is really what gets them. So these do definitely look familiar. One of the things that you can or should know is that cessation is possible for our youth. There is tools that are online. This is actually this blip is one that partnered with the Truth Initiative. You can order these at any age. You can utilize these for individuals that are under the age of 18. So they are available. So there are ways to quit. There are ways that they're trying to connect people with these resources. Any questions so far? Just want to make sure I don't blaze through too much. It's a blaze through as I'm on the cannabis slide. My bad. So, cannabis, definitely not your parents' pot. Once upon a time when I said cannabis or marijuana, we usually think of the flowers. We usually think of things maybe like brownies. But it's so much more than that. Over the last few years, you've seen people making more concentrates, which are both in the vapes as well as here. Typical cannabis, when you buy it on the street, is probably about 15 to 20% THC. If you go to a dispensary, it's around 25 to 35% THC. In the concentrates, you're looking at closer to 65 to 85% THC because you're processing it so there's more THC in it. Things like edibles, they're saying 10 milligrams is a good starting point, but now I'm starting to see 20 milligrams or 100 milligrams. They tell you to start low and slow, but what happens, is anybody here going to eat 1/6 of that cookie out there because that's the serving size? Probably not, right? It takes a long time when we talk about edibles, which is why a lot of the times they're linked to a lot of poisonings because people don't feel anything right away, so they take more. And they take more. It's not the same as when you smoke it or use different vapes when it comes to them. But there's so many companies out there right now that are making a lot of money off high-potency contacts or high-potency products. The synthetics that are out there is amazing. We have concerns around a variety of different things, and those hemp derivatives is probably one of my biggest concerns. So this actually came from a Leafly newsletter. One of the things that I follow a lot is the Leafly newsletter because they talk a lot about the different products that are available, the different ways that can be used, the different trends that are out there, and the way things are sold. So once upon a time, you'd have like a chiclet-sized gum or a Starburst, very small. Now they have 100 milligram gummies that are available. Again, if you have a cube of gummy, you're supposed to only take off a little piece. We can imagine as more of these high-potency contacts, high-potency, high number of servings, we're going to expect that we're going to see more and more calls for EMS, more and more calls for poison control as well. One company that I'm going to call out here that's widely promoted through Instagram, TikTok, you name it, is Smile. Smile is the company behind the Penjamin. So if you're part of Tall Cop's presentation, he does talk about this one quite a bit. Essentially, it is a workable pen. It writes, it does everything. It looks just like a pen. But if you take it apart, you can actually, this is called a cart. This is the thing where I can take my battery and go anywhere in the country and just go buy a cart and then connect up with my THC. So I can put anything in this pen and utilize it. As you can see here, this comes right from their site. But it's not just pens. And right now, social media is listening, so you're probably going to see these things in your feeds. I'm sorry. But enjoy. It's very interesting. They have fake keys. They have fake dank sabers. They have fake torches that look a lot like a game that I bet you some of your kids play. Their Smile Squad, who look like they're younger than some of the kids I saw earlier today, have millions of followers. Millions. So they're paying these influencers to promote their products. But it's not just these. It's these too. Their site started with the Penjamin. One thing. 2 years ago. And it's expanded to this and more. I just couldn't bring myself to update it again. But between the torches, between the other products, they have little chargers now, so you never can, you never have to leave home and go on uncharged. So Smile Lab is one brand. You can imagine how many other brands are out there. The reason we are where we are with all these hemp derivatives, the Delta 8, the Delta 10, and so on, is because of the 2018 Farm Bill. Over the years, there's been conversations about closing this loop, and nothing's moving forward. Every time that it gets promoted, it gets kicked out or it doesn't go further. Essentially, you have to have less than a 0.4% THC. It is measured at a field. So if this is a field, they will go up and they will take a sample in this corner and that's it. In the state of Wisconsin, we have 2 people that test fields. What happens after it leaves the field? There's no further testing. So I can take whatever is grown here, synthesize it up, and make it as strong as I want. Add whatever I want. That's one of the problems with the hemp derivatives, is that I feel that they're more risky and widely promoted. They have more things like lead, arsenic, and other poisons and other toxins. With these, though, it has grown so much. When it first came out, it was CBD, and then it became Delta 8, and then it became Delta 10. And now I think we're up to Delta 17, maybe? Substances like THCA, get to know that. Because when you heat THCA, if it's in a vape, if it's in a flower, and you add heat, it becomes Delta 9. So essentially what we've done is we made THCA, we put THCA in everything. It's like salt. It's the salt of the hemp derivatives. Because once we add heat, it becomes Delta 9. I can go on and on and on with all these different products. They're sold in different ways. Like THCV, it's a weight loss Delta product. That's how it's being promoted. A lot of these are not singular. They're added to other things. If you go to a vape site, you can get a download typically of all the different THCs that they have. We also have to talk about the wave of THC beverages. In Wisconsin, if you've ever been to Wisconsin or near Wisconsin, Quick Trip is huge. Quick Trip is the Casey's General Store, the Marathons, the big chain. Family owned, doesn't even sell condoms at it because they have values about that. They sell these in their coolers now. Every single Quick Trip has THC beverages. The problem with them is they do intoxicate you. It is something that you can drink very easily. They're flavored. They're promoted as the safer option to alcohol. Sober October we're in right now. So a lot of ads through, I know, my socials. There's so many different things that we're concerned about this, as well as if we cross-use these or we add these to other products. One of the things that you maybe start seeing again, now that your phones are listening, is you're gonna start seeing things like these THC elixirs that are Delta products under the hemp bill that you can add to any liquid to feel that buzz without the hangover. What happens when we add things like buzz drops or some of the powder things that are meant to dissolve to an alcoholic beverage without someone knowing? A lot of the times these products come on the market and we don't think about what the ramifications can be. So again, looking at these, it's about being aware. It's not about saying don't use or don't try these things, but understand that a drug test will not differentiate between the THC in these and the THC if it was the traditional Delta-9 THC. Again, another brand, another company. If you go to these sites, look at the reviews and look at how they're being sold. What are they talking about? Those are the ways that I usually go because that's where you're going to get the best information. As I mentioned, there are cannabis type, again, these are the hemp derivatives. These are the ones that are legal in states. No age restrictions unless your state puts it into place. Places like Texas moved forward to try to ban these. It failed, and they left out THC beverages, mind you. So some states are looking to ban these or put an age restriction of 21. Anybody of any age can buy them. I did forget to mention that. So a store may say, well, you need to be 21 to be in here, or you need to be 18 to be in this store, this vape shop. But there is no age restriction. It's very difficult to do any sort of legal action on it. And more examples of kind of what we're looking at. The reason that I have this one up here is because when we look at THC, they'll add things called terpenes, like this limonene is one that's supposed to give you energy. I can buy terpenes to add to my own products on Amazon. No age restriction. So it again is something to be aware of. Widely available. A couple years ago, we did talk about K2 and spice. This is just the vape form of K2 and spice. But this is something that they're seeing, they call it pimp juice. It is something that they're seeing as unpredictable. So those of you in fire and EMS, be aware that there are people that are tripping on this stuff and they are unpredictable. It is something that is being sold. It's not necessarily something that's up on the counter, but people are looking at buying these things online. When there's a will, there's a way. And I'm not even gonna try to say what that actually is called. It's much easier to say this slang. We talk about prescriptions and over-the-counters. Everybody has heard about opioids. We've seen the trend line over time as far as the waves go. Stimulants is another one where the message is make sure you protect, keep your medications up and away so people aren't able to take them and abuse them. So in addition to these two, fentanyl is definitely something that's come in many different forms. It used to be patches, then it became pills, then it became, I've heard of liquids, I've seen, it's coming in. What's available now is not necessarily, odds are not, it's anything that was prescribed here in the United States. It's coming in illicitly from other countries. China gets a lot of the blame on this. One of the ones that trends lately is what they look at as purple fentanyl, which they're adding lidocaine to fentanyl for whatever purpose that would be as a potentiator to the high that a person may feel. It comes in a pill press. You can go to eBay and buy a pill press for a couple $100 and make your own pills with whatever you want to do, whatever emblems you want to do. And this is something that is actually impacting. There's some studies that came out around our seniors that fentanyl is actually directly impacting our seniors as well, resulting in harm. So we talk about fentanyl. When I talked about whack-a-mole, this is kind of where we're at. Talk about fentanyl, xylazine pops up. Xylazine, otherwise known as tranq, or the zombie drug, this is the one where you've seen on the news where people literally, they're on the nod. Essentially, they can't keep their head up. They look like they're falling asleep. They're literally nodding. They maybe are hearing everything that's going on, but they're not responsive to you. Xylazine was a vet drug. It caused a necropathy. My brain's not working right now, where your skin could kind of rot because it reduces blood flow so much. So they're like, no more, we'll just make this a pet med. So xylazine is one that was added first. Nitazines are up in this corner here. Itotonitazine. These are 10 to 20 times stronger. When you look at xylazine, both of these have been really linked in the news a lot lately. Carfentanil is one that I've heard for probably 12 years. It's an elephant tranquilizer. You can see just how many more times, 100 times more potent than fentanyl. These things get added. And when people say to me, well, why would you add these things if you know someone's going to die? It's good business. They know my part of me. They know my shit is good. That is what one drug dealer said to an investigator where I used to live. Because it's strong, it's potent, it gets people coming back. The thing is that we are now past tolerance on fentanyl, that this stuff is being sought out. So for a person that's using and intentionally seeking these substances out, they need to go bigger, stronger, because fentanyl is not enough. That doesn't mean that fentanyl is not getting into other things that people maybe think that they're taking, maybe not. But it was kind of like a hold my beer moment. So medetomidine came out last year. Philly seems to be the epicenter when these substances come out. They're seeing these usually things first. Fly ski is one of the ways it's called. Rhino trank is another. 100 times stronger. Lasts longer than xylazine, being sought after. So again, game of whack-a-mole. Why are we adding these things? Because it cheapens it up, it makes it go farther, it makes it stronger so it's more attractive to those that are looking to use. Again, all these things are in that soundbite, so you don't have to try to remember all of them. When it comes to prescriptions, benzodiazepines, already mentioned, that is one that if you go through withdrawals, it can be fatal. It is something that's very widely linked to overdoses and death because it is a central nervous system depressant. If you mix it with something like alcohol, many stars that have died over the years usually have some sort of benzodiazepine as part of it. Promethazine, widely promoted through hip-hop culture. Purple drank, the double styrofoam cups, linked back to Atlanta rappers pretty heavily. Not necessarily one that I think can seek out, but it is something that they're talking about because of that culture. Gabapentin is probably one, it's for nerve pain and seizures. Some of you may be on it. It's not regulated. It's not a controlled substance at a federal level. It may show up, I believe that it shows up on state registries, so you know how much is going out. But this is a new one that people are seeking out because it increases the high from narcotics, different type of opioids. So gabapentin is probably one that really flies under the radar on a lot of different areas of concern. We talk about opioids a lot, we talk about protecting Adderall a lot, but we don't necessarily talk about gabapentin. On to the over-the-counters. The only one here that's age-restricted, I'm not sure about Indiana, is pseudoephedrine. Pseudoephedrine is the precursor to meth. Pseudoephedrine is the one you sign behind the counter when you go to the pharmacy when you have a cold. Dextromethorphan in Wisconsin is illegal for anybody under the age of 18 to purchase. I don't know if Indiana has that law here. I see a couple head nods. I'm not sure. But dextromethorphan, skittling, you may have heard when people say when you put all the pills in the bowl. Skittling, really a lot comes from this because when you look at cortisone high blood pressure, HBP, it looks like Skittles when you push it out of the punch packs. The Benadryl can be added to different opioids. Again, when we talk about the potentiators, it increases that high, but it also helps with that narcotic itch. If you've ever been on opioids, you may get itchy. It does help with withdrawal, some people say. I have been part of death review teams where people have died just on Benadryl, or it's part of their makeup or their overdose profile. Things like loperamide. How many of you guys have ever taken Imodium? Imodium works on the same body receptors as opioids do. So it works on the same receptors as fentanyl, as heroin, as Oxycontin, and so on. If you take it in high amounts, you get a euphoric effect. I'm not talking about like taking 5. I'm talking about taking 50, 100. If you go to Amazon, you can buy them in bulk for cheap. Different stores that I go into and I do the checks and different community scans, I usually look at how much loperamide's there. Because unless somebody's all got food-borne illnesses all at the same time, there may be an issue if that's the only thing that's empty on the shelf. I have seen loperamide as part of overdoses as well as the sole cause of overdoses as well. It is something that people use to help with withdrawal symptoms, but it's part of this makeup. Again, I can go on and on with all the things that are up here, but it's something that to recognize is that many of these are in our cabinets at home. Are we paying attention to these like we are with other substances? We're gonna get into the have you heards, the random things, the black holes, if you will. TikTok famous is all the things. Every single 6 months, probably, having the trends of looking at things like poppy wash, where you soak poppy seeds. Yes, you can get high from the powder on poppy seeds. Usually people add it to things like Coke because it's kind of a bitter taste. I actually had a recovery coach that passed away after doing that. Yes, you can use Burt's Bees to put around your eye because the menthol gives you a kind of a false high. I don't know. Why do people figure these things out? I have no idea. Beeson, that's what it's called. Yes, you can get drunk on cooking wine. The salt is horrible. It was part of the card, the food assistance cards. They had to take it off because people are using it and getting drunk off of it. Yes, you can get drunk off of hand sanitizer. You're probably going to get sick first. And then nutmeg, that's one that keeps showing up on TikTok. If you ingest it in high amounts, it creates a hallucinogenic effect. Again, why do we know these things? Thank you, internet. Because a lot of this stuff would have went by the wayside. Vitamin vapes is probably one of the ones that a lot of people are like, what? Or vitamin, like this is like a Calm Kit, it's an inhaler. So if you saw a few slides back, there's different inhalers that people could use. Essentially, it looks like a tampon in it. So if you chew on it, you can get a hallucinogenic effect. You're seeing that here as well. And just because it's a vitamin vape or a healthy vape does not mean that it's safe. Vitamin vapes, a lot of schools are talking about these. A lot of younger kids have access to these. They're not age restricted. So grandma gets you an Amazon gift card, guess what somebody can buy? So even if it doesn't have the nicotine in it, it does have some of those other substances that can be harmful. The whole idea of microdosing is new culture. I would say you're gonna see psychedelics go forward on a national level before you see cannabis. The psychedelic industry is like, we want nothing to do with the cannabis industry because they want to see these things go forward. So whether it's macrodosing or microdosing, you can see the definitions here. It's linked to things like LSD, it's linked to things like DMT, psilocybin, ecstasy, ayahuasca. Thank you, Aaron Rodgers. I do not claim him, just so everybody knows. Cannabis and others. There is such a trend with this. If you take this little bit, you're going to get this. If you take this big bit, you're going to get that. Take this little bit to be social, kind of a social lubricant, and you're going to be feeling great. Take this big piece when you're at home. The whole trend of microdosing and macrodosing, there is a whole culture around it. I can tell you that if you go to like Leafly or you go to things like Vice, Vice.com, Vice has its own TV channel. It's another resource that I use. There's a lot of discussion around that. Amanita muscaria or muscimol. Here is our legal hallucinogenic mushrooms. They are for some reason falling underneath the hemp bill. They're being sold under that in different stores. They're being combined with THCA. So in these vapes that are up here, they're THCA and some sort of one of these, amanitas or muscimols. They're also linked with other things like kava root, which I'll talk about in a little bit. We may take these things as supplements. I'm not saying that that is an issue. We're talking about different products with higher amounts that are being sought after for higher intense feelings. This is what one of those grow kits look like that I mentioned earlier to create your own mushrooms. Very brightly colored, very widely available. So not only are these available in vapes, they're available in gummies, they're available in chocolates, they're available in a variety of products, just like we're seeing with cannabis. Lion's Mane is another one. Lion's Mane Breeze is maybe one that you saw depending on your age and gender. You maybe are already seeing this on Facebook and or Instagram, you might not even know it. You go to their site, yes, I'm 21. I actually went to a site and accidentally hit no, and I panicked. I'm like, oh no, what am I gonna do? Like, I did something wrong. I just hit refresh and said yes, and they're like, well, welcome. because at first I'd come back when you're old enough. This is what our kids see. This is how easy it is to get. A lot of these are sold and sent, like, obviously through the mail, to your door, discreet packaging. They promote that very widely. But Lion's Mane is a lot of different products. This is one brand, the Treehouse brand. That's probably one of the more popular. The reason I put this up here is because this is just all the products that have these psychedelic mushrooms in it. They have some that look like, they have the vapes, they have the chocolates. These are called cones. They have the gummies. They have syrups, strawberry gelato. Again, to point out, up here, if you take 1 to 2 servings, you're going to have a day at the office, 4 to 6, a day at the park, 7+, a day on the moon. All of them say that they ship everywhere, 49 states. One state has banned the shipment of hemp products. I believe it's Idaho. I believe. Or it might be Utah. One of the two up there. So these products are widely available. They're promoted in a way that is just obscene. Silly Dots is probably one of the ones that I saw most recently. It's highly promoted on TikTok right now. Pardon the swear words. I tried to block them out as much as I could. But these are kind of like a lozenge or an Altoid. So they have some that are available in a lower dose, and then they have some available in a higher dose. They have some that are available with THCA. They have some available with both THCA and some of these mushroom products. So again, widely available. Usually you'll see tianeptine and phenibut together. I believe in my research I saw tianeptine is not allowed in the state of Indiana, but you have states around you that it does, and you guys are close enough to enough states that do, that odds are you maybe are seeing it. This Neptune's, it's otherwise known as the gas station heroin you maybe have seen on the news. So it comes in pills, it comes in powders, a lot of the familiar brands here. Phenibut is one that is used along with it, or sometimes they're next to each other. Phenibut is not one that's definitely regulated. They've changed some of the way that their product looks. They make it look more legit, so it looks more like, you can see here, it looks more like a regular old vitamin. Or they have some powders that look like a creatine powder. So both of these come together. Both of them are used alongside other products. A lot of conversations around these different products in communities and in states, because as a supplement, there's nothing that stops them from coming on the market until somebody complains about it. And then the FDA will come in. So this flood continues to go. Kratom is one that is banned as well in Indiana, but it's available in Illinois. I'm not sure the legal status in Michigan. So kratom is one that is linked to, well, I use this for my withdrawal. I use this to get off of things like opioids. This is one that has been commercialized so heavily. When it first came out, all I saw was this kind of stuff. It came in like a powder, like a pouch. It kind of looked like tea. So if you imagine what kind of like tea leaves look like, it would come in capsules. And now it's in elixirs. Like Feel Free is the biggest brand I've probably seen. Feel Free also, they said hold my beer. I got another one. They also do one that's called, it's like a Feel Free, it's even a higher amount. It includes other things, like instead of just kava root and kratom, it has kava root, lion's mane, other substances. So kratom is probably one of the ones that's getting a lot of buzz. And like I said, they have their own, like the Altoids. They have their own elixirs. And they have these little gummy balls. It's not hard to believe that they're also going to have the pouches very shortly. So kratom is one, the 7-0 or the 7-hydroxymetrogenine. I never can say it. I always just point at it. That is another one. This is one that's been very heavily in the news. On a federal level, they're talking about making the ban on this. They're talking about putting it as a higher level of scheduling. It is one type. It's like the Delta 8, Delta 10s, and so on, the HHC and THCA and all that. It's just one type of the kratom plant. So when you ban one type, what happens? We're going to see another one. I just haven't seen it yet. But there's actually a whole trend called gas station sober. So if you go to Reddit is probably where I get a lot of my information. If you type in gas station sober, it'll tell you all about what that means. So it's the tianeptines, it's the phenibits, it's the friends, it's the, you can see how these are tongue twisters, acumina. All of these are linked to other substances. It's not as simple as taking one. Typically, they're paired with something else. The DMHA, legally, unregulated, adulterated, smart drug, it looks like Adderall in its name. At gas stations, this is readily available, whether it's in the elixir or it's in pill forms. They also added one that has increased focus, which adds some of the shrooms to it as well. I've seen these everywhere. Every state has these. Again, it's unregulated. But you can see how attractive they would be. Anytime that you go to a gas station, anytime you go to a grocery store, and it says social elixir, it says increase performance, increase focus, pick it up. Take a picture, make a note of it, look it up later, and see what it actually is. When I was at Whole Foods yesterday, right at the checkout, they have Hi-Yo, functional mushrooms in it. When I look at it a little bit more, if you go online and you search it out, it talks about Sober October, it talks about alcohol alternatives, it talks about relaxing at home. It is an impairment beverage that is sold at the checkout in coolers, just like you would see water. If I was a parent and I was going through and somebody's like, oh, it's passion fruit, can I get it? Unless I looked at it, I wouldn't know that it's something that was going to impair my kid. So it's something to be aware of. Definitely, when you look at things like horny goat weed, WAP gummies, you name it, look at where things are sold. You have these, you have condoms, typically. At a lot of gas stations, they're right at the checkout. Sometimes they're locked up, sometimes they're not. A lot of our truck stops will have these. If you're looking to get a high in a store, they're unregulated, they're not age restricted. So anybody, any age can get them. There's even like in the restrooms where they have the condom machines and stuff like that. There is actually some in Wisconsin that were selling these and they tested positive for meth. So when you look at some of these products, it is widely available. It is something that's widely sexualized and sought after. Some of the different supplements that you also may have heard of, and we're going to get out of this in just a minute here, but kava, ashwagandha, damiana, all of these things on their own are not necessarily a danger. If you add them to other things, you may increase your risk for some potential health event. Look at the names of them, though. Psychedelic water. What message is that sending? Looking at the 3 Spirit, it looks like an alcohol bottle. We know that some of these things in higher levels can create hallucinogenic effect. Again, TikTok famous, and they're added to a lot of different things. Berberine, it's nature's Ozempic, or known as diet seeds. TikTok pushed these around a couple years ago, so whether these are legal or not, it's something that we know of that's potentially danger. Again, I know it's a lot. One last slide, though. As states start to ban hemp derivatives, as states start to ban different nicotine vapes, what I have been finding is they're using other products. Blue Lotus, has anybody heard of Blue Lotus? I've only had a couple people hear of it. Okay, so Blue Lotus, actually, this information comes from, the military because they had such an issue with military personnel using them. Blue Lotus has been around a long time. What caught my eye was the name of it. It's called Mental Health. It's a vape. It was up and away at a gas station. I almost missed when I was walking out. But if you notice the colors and what I talked before about the terpenes, so the lemoncene, the citrus flavor is energy. Well, that one's called ecstasy. Some of the ones that are like the calming has the different tranquilizing effect as that. So all these will say there's no THC in them, but all these are promoting some sort of mental health benefit. So it's something to be aware of. It's not just, so if we're swabbing for things like THC, we're swabbing for things like nicotine, there are other impairment things out there, and the industry just continues to pump them out. All right. Any questions? I'm going to get to what we can do about it now. I know, it's a lot. It's a lot. So definitely want to take that back, digest. Email me. Those of you that came in a little later, grab my card. Let me know. I'll get you that link to that drive and get you that handout if you don't want to wait for it to come from the school. So what can we do? We know this is a wicked problem. We did not get here overnight. It's kind of like your Christmas lights every year you put away and you're like, next year's going to be the year. I'm not going to have to untangle them. And then you're like Clark Griswold and be like, little knot here. This is what we're dealing with. No one program agency can do this alone. We know that this is impacting us on a wide scale. We know that we can make it better, but these are decade-long problems. We can't just expect to fill a pothole and the road's going to be fixed forever, right? We need to build that infrastructure up. So one of the important things is that nobody is perfect, and I talk about this with the kids earlier. Do the best we can until we know better. When we know better, do better. So once we know about these things, to continue to address them. And where I learn about a lot of them, like if you pull a bottle of I had a school resource officer come up to me and say, we got this kid, and we suspect he's using, but when we did a search, all he had was a bottle of ashwagandha, a vitamin that many people do take for a variety of different reasons, right? A supplement. And I said, well, let's look it up. Typed it into Reddit, ashwagandha. I think I put ashwagandha abuse or high or something. And all kinds of feeds came up talking about how much you should take to get this effect, how you should pair it with this to get that effect. So unless you look, you won't necessarily know exactly what you're looking at. So if something feels off, look into it. Reddit is my go-to. Leafly, I subscribe to their newsletter. I get all kinds of stuff on the daily about what new products are coming out there. Vice is another one that's a pretty widely known drug culture type of, they're the ones that have like Snoop's pot or THC cannabis cook-off. They have that kind of show. YouTube you could still go to. Arrowwood is this logo here. Arrowwood's been around a long time. It looks like it's been around a long time. If you haven't been on their site, it looks like the old first-gen websites. I mean, right down to the way that things are laid out, the fonts that are used. It is an old site, but people continue to feed it. It comes from users giving their testimonials. Reddit does the same thing. If you hear slang, if you're wondering about, well, what did I just hear? What did I just see? Things like Urban Dictionary can be beneficial, or Urban Thesaurus is another one. But this is my newsletter. Again, grab my card. You can sign up that way. Tall Cop has his newsletter. If you haven't already started following them on their socials, and he does have a number of Spotify videos. But it's important about knowing, talk to your kids, talk to them about what they see. Some of my favorite moments is when I hear, hey, Melissa, have you heard about? Because that always, I'm like, what have you heard about? This is my 15-year-old, 15, 16, now going to be 17-year-old. He loves starting sentences that way because it piques my interest. Get to know what's at your gas stations and your convenience stores. Pay attention in your grocery stores. I can't tell you how many communities I've been at. I'll be like, oh, so have you guys seen THC beverages? They're like, oh, no. Our stores wouldn't do that. The local Piggly Wiggly wouldn't have that. Or, oh, this gas station wouldn't have that. They go to our church, and whatever reason. It's money. It sells a lot of products. There's a reason why we need to go and check these things out. Recognize that all of these products, all those hemp products I showed you, just that sampling, are available online. You click a box that says, yes, I'm old enough. Your local vape stores may also be selling things online for pickup or delivery, because we know that drugs travel to our door in many different ways. You could go to Weed Maps and type in what you're looking for and find what's within 5 miles of here. Obviously, Michigan's right across the border, right? You can have things delivered. You have trucks driving around with this. You have different events. The more we use sale apps or money apps, the easier we're making it to pay for substances. Kids do not need cash anymore. They need a debit card that's maybe linked to PayPal or Venmo or any of the others. So we know that these things are available. We know that they're widely promoted through different social media platforms. We know that there are people that are sending it through the mail. Like I said, any of those sites will say that they send within a certain area. One of those conversations I just had with Mason was this last April. He goes, hey, Melissa, have you heard about this new game, Schedule 1? And I'm like, Schedule 1? Like drugs? Yeah, I'm familiar with Schedule 1. I actually started with, have you heard of Schedule 1? I'm like the drugs? like heroin and marijuana, and he's like, no, the game. So he's telling me about it, and the other one chimes in, he's like, it's like Breaking Bad in a sim. And I'm like, what? So they're telling me about all the things you could do. I mean, you could kill people, you could make them enslaved into working your different cannabis plants and going through the grows and making all these things happen and all these deals. Those are the conversations that I didn't even know that there was actually called a drug dealer simulator before this. When we talk to our kids, every time we get the chance, when we're on the dinner table, when we're in the car going from this event to that event, we see something on TV in a movie, bring up that conversation, have those words, see what they thought about today. Educate yourself every single day that nothing is as easy as it seems. If you start seeing balloons in your kids' rooms, wonder if there's maybe some nitrous there as well. If you start seeing different vapes or different twine, more people are getting away from using the traditional Zippo lighter because they don't want the gas to go into their cannabis or whatever it is that they're burning. So they're using like the burlap twine to make it healthier. You know, looking at things like how many times I've seen beer pong in different areas around the store, whether it's sitting on bottles of rum or in kids' aisles. Why do we have beer pong kits in kids' toys aisles? What are the messages that we're sending? So there's a variety of different things, and these are just, again, all slides that we could go through every single thing. One thing I am going to point out is this is a 510 battery. I could buy those right at the gas station, so if you see like chargers and stuff, they're usually there. That's what I could take anywhere and just go buy my cart wherever I am and just hook it up. It's not going to hold residue. It's not going to hold smell. It's literally just a battery that we've made very easy to be able to use around the world. There are so many stash containers. Once upon a time I went and it was like over 2,000 stash containers, or as I put, hidden compartment items. If you're concerned about someone using, never take anything for granted, because that soda can, that Axe spray, that lipstick, that water bottle, that drawer can have hidden compartments in it. I mean, there are shoe inserts, for goodness sakes. I've seen things made homemade. I've seen things made, very professionally done. I've seen these in gas stations, mom and pop gas stations. I've seen these in vape shops. I've seen scrunchies that have a little zipper pocket for your valuables. I've seen, this is probably one of the newer things. It looks just like our charging cube. You can put anything in, you remember that old SNL skit where you could put your weed in it? Literally, there are so many things out there right now, it's very hard to keep up. What I've found, though, is that spelling will be off, colors will be off, especially on some of the name brand things, but they're made to dupe you. They are working chapsticks, they are working Sharpies, they are working pens, they are working lipsticks. So all of these things are available and promoted. I mean, you can get a scale in every single shape and form. If you start seeing a lot of silicone in a room, they may be making some dabs themselves, which a lot of people don't make anymore, which is where you push butane through leafy plants, and it creates kind of a sticky substance that you have to go onto things like that, because otherwise you can't get it out. If you're seeing these things, ask questions, be aware. Yes, you can buy tampons that are fake, that you can put alcohol in or put other substances in. This is a review from a parent who was very proud of the fact that their kid did this and snuck it into a concert. Spencer's, Amazon, other sites, widely available. They have flasks that look like phones. They have flasks that look like brushes. I mean, I can't imagine checking a kid into a dance or like a lock-in or anything like that, because there's so many things that you can use to hide things in. And when you're talking about hiding things like, alcohol is one thing, right? We can kind of guess we has to be a little bit bigger. But if you're looking at things like pills, you're looking at things like some of these edibles, you're looking at things like LSD, we may look right past it. Especially when we make it easy by having hidden compartments and things like hats. That's a grassroots hat. Those have like little pockets, but even your own hat, you have the little lip around it. You can easily put things up there. Dime Bags is one of the popular brands of backpacks. They have hidden pouches. This I thought was so official, the Smuggle Duds. Like, right? This looks like it's very formal. It's just a patent office. But, there's hidden compartment underwear because, I want to put all my valuables in the front pouch and then use them. I don't know. I don't get it. But all these things are on Amazon. Cookies actually even has their own storefronts now because they're such a big brand. I see people of all ages wearing Cookies clothes. I've seen parents buying it for their kids and hats and shirts. I've seen people using the OG Kush. Backwoods is another one. Here's a Cookies backpack. So you can see just all the different products that are available. This is one of the things that I've found at Walmart. I've been finding them at Amazon. I mean, essentially, the more that we have businesses selling on behalf of other people, the more readily available it's going to be. So not only are people buying these on Amazon, now if you get your kid a Walmart gift card for Christmas, well, they can't get anything with Walmart. Yeah, they can. Hidden compartments, different stash containers. Sprayground is probably one of the more popular backpacks, but I could say I was kind of looking at kids coming in and out of stuff today. I only saw a couple of them. It's usually that red tag on the front, but they have like the cute little crossbody bags. They've got the fanny packs. You can't keep these things on the shelf. A lot of the times we'll buy these for kids and not necessarily realize, hey, there's a stash pocket in there. This is actually a close-up of what that stash pocket card says, and they do all have that. But it's not just these. I mean, these are expensive backpacks. Widely sought after, like I said. Characters, the new editions every year sell out before they even really hit the shelves. But I can go to Amazon and get these cute pair of boots, right? Adorable, $20. They got a little stash pocket in them. All of these, this is actually one for your bra, so you put it right in the middle. So if I was doing a pat down, I wouldn't feel it. They have stash socks. They have stash underwear. One of my coworkers, I had to laugh. She ended up buying these. So Trojan partnered with a company. So Zoomies sells a lot of these products, that store. I don't know if they have them here or not. But Trojan partnered with them. They have a little stash pocket for your condom, but you can imagine what else can go in there. She's like, I had no idea. And I'm like, it says Trojan all over it, man. Again, more brands. There's so many brands out there. It's getting more and more and more. And a lot of the times they're promoted as the conscientious traveler, if you want to hide your valuables so people can't pick your pockets and steal your stuff. But if I go, so I went to Leafly and I said, essentially, between that and Reddit, if you do a search and say, what's the best stash clothing, all of these products show up. And if you go to their sites, they seem very legit. So when you look at these, like I said, they even have 510 batteries with hidden compartments so you can put pills in there. So even, they kind of re-up themselves, more things coming in. This grossed me out completely. You could buy pre-soiled underwear. I mean, they're not actually soiled. They're just made to look that way. They're like, well, if you go through, the comments were, well, if you go through TSA, they're not going to want to touch anything once they see that. I would probably guess that's probably a factual statement. But this is just kind of part of where we're looking at. Yes, there are hoodies that have the vape strings that you can hook a vape up to. They're expensive. I would say that they don't even need them anymore because the disposables are so discreet. Yes, they have vape backpacks that you can get. Yes, they have a variety of different things. That doesn't mean people are getting them anymore or using them, but it's important to be aware of them. And it's important to be aware of how things like alcohol, nicotine, cannabis, and so on are being sold in the town. I look at it from price, promotions, products, and placements, but it really, there's like 4 Ps, there's 7 Ps, there's 7 As, 5 As, all the things. So some of these pictures actually come from some businesses that I've gone into. Why I bring them up is because I encourage you, my action for you is to go into your stores and pay attention. How are things displayed? Is there wine next to the cheese? Is there beer display next to the pizza? What does it look like as we come across hunting season? How many hunting displays do you have linked to alcohol sales? When you go past the vape store, how much freaking neon is outside? When you can see it from a mile away and it's brighter than a Walmart parking lot, there's a problem. There's a reason why it's that way. If you go to a dispensary, if you've never been, very little lighting, very little signage, security people at the door. You end up going to a counter, and then they get your substance from the back, whatever you order.
It's not like you see in the vape shops. If you've never been at a vape shop, go in. The people will tell you all about it. Odds are they're probably going to be high as a kite as well when you walk in there. Not going to lie. I mean, that's my experience every single time. What I've been finding is, especially, like I said, in Wisconsin, we put this vape law into place for nicotine vapes, not THC vapes or the hemp vapes. More of them have opened up their doors where it was age restricted before to anybody of any age because they're starting to sell clothing. They're starting to sell like gaming, like Pikachu and all the different card games that go along with that. They're selling puzzles. They talk about having a kid's corner. But don't worry, folks. We'll make sure we card at the door for anything that is age restricted. So we've kind of swung that door open. We've kind of went backwards. But this is what we're seeing, I know, in Wisconsin, is because they can't sell as many flavored vapes, so they have to diversify their business. So don't be surprised if some of your mom and pop shops or some of your vape shops open up to sell more of these products. Some of the products you probably didn't know that were available, these are at the dollar store, like literally the Dollar Tree, Family Dollar, Dollar General. Extreme Energy, again, flip it over, look what's in it. High amounts can cause an hallucinogenic effect. Yes, they sell fake urine. It comes with a hand warmer, so you have to get the right temperature though, because if you're getting a urine test, they'll be able to tell if it's too hot or too cold. Yes, THC coolers look just like this. You probably walked right past them. You can buy detox kits of all flavors and all sizes. Some of the concealment containers. Here's some of those whippets. This is some of those big nitrous cans that I was talking about. Look how tall those things are. Every single day when I go into a gas station or grocery store, I look to see what's at the counter. A lot of the times I have a basket of the little baby bottles that you see in a mini bar. How easy are those to steal, right? Those are about 1.5 servings per little bottle. Those type of things. They have discount vapes at the counter because they can't sell them fast enough because they get old. So they're trying to offload them. Just the other day in my own hometown gas or grocery store, I was like, what in the hell is that? Excuse my language, everyone. Uncensored. So they have the single serve cans in a big display at the checkout. And I see this. And I'm like, why is there hydration drinks next to the NA and some of the like single serve like seltzer products? And here, I did not see this. This was a new to me moment. So Light Strike is actually, it's got a little baby, contains alcohol, need to be 21 to buy. They've got probably 4 different varieties. It's made with coconut milk, super healthy for you, a way to hydrate. It's 5% alcohol. 5% alcohol is a 12-ounce can. This is obviously bigger than that. So that was something I saw. This is that Hi-O that I mentioned that was at, help me, Whole Foods. Thank you. I'm like, Total Wellness? No. Whole Foods. This is the product that was there. So if you go there, they'll tell you all about it. White Claw knew they weren't selling as much, so they went from their 5% alcohol to Surge, which is 8%. So in a 16-ounce can, you're looking at 1.5 servings of alcohol. If you drink something like Four Loko, if you've seen those cans, they look like energy drinks. Those are 4.7 servings of alcohol in one can. I was at a Brewer game and saw somebody tailgating with those. For every one of my summer shandies, they were drinking one of those. That guy probably did not make it to the second inning, let's be honest. But those are also another thing that's like 2 for $5, sold very cheap. And when I say just the other day, this was today. Again, my social media feed is full of drug stuff now. Delta, you may have seen. Again, it's one of those that you maybe looked right past. What got me is your 20s, your 30s. What did that mean? I wanted to look more into it. So I actually did this while we were eating lunch today. It was delightful. Jimmy John's, thank you so much. And I'm like, okay, what does this mean? So in your 20s, this is 5 milligram serving. So this is going to be the lightest one that they make. In your 30s, with all the kid stuff in the background, mind you, they think you should take 10 now. Why? I have no idea. You experience more, you have more of a tolerance, you have kids, you need to deal with it. And then they also have 20. They talk about it being fast-acting, better than gummies because it's a liquid. So that's another allure of those THC beverages compared to some of the other products. It's legal in 49 states. In the fine print, how much should I drink? First time with Delta, think about it like dipping your toes in the pool. Start out slow at first. If you're new to the game, begin with 1 can of Delta Light to get those mellow vibes rolling. If you're feeling bold, step up to our Delta Strong drink. But remember, everyone's ride on this train is different, so start slow. One of their other FAQs was, will it show on a test? Yes. Our products will cause you to test positive. We recommend not drinking them if you're required to pass a test. So they all know. That drug test is not going to know the difference between if you drank these Delta products or if you went out and bought some Delta 9 from a dispensary. Price points, sale points, 2-for-1s. Many of these products that are FDA approved are now, they're selling them at a discount. So before, when that Views first came out or the Enjoy came out, those just bases that look like this and then you put your pods in, they were like $30. They were expensive just to get the base. Now they're giving them away. So that just goes to show that this is part of the trend. When you walk in the door, what are the sale signs that are out there? When you're pumping gas, what are the ads that you're seeing? The price points are everywhere. And this is one of those examples of when I was at a store, I was like, are you kidding me? They were selling the anti-diarrheal meds, the loperamide, like giving major discounts if people buy in bulk. Yeah, I don't think necessarily people do this intentionally, but it is something to be concerned about. And like I said, that placement, the wine with the cheese, the end caps, when you walk in the door with the wine and the pasta, when you're getting ready for that evening out, the discount bins, all of these things are intentional. And when I talked about the neon, I'm talking about neon. I was actually surprised the vape shop, one of the vape shops that I ended up at, I can't remember the name of the road, but it wasn't far from here. It's aliens all over the outside. Their neon display was actually pretty minimal, but the way they painted it glows. So they kind of went around it that way. But the amount of neon that's out there, it's attention grabbing. It invites people in. It says it's a fun atmosphere. There's a reason why they do this. So what do we do? In our last few minutes here, and then we'll get into some of the things that are happening here at the school. We all have the opportunity to build protective factors in our youth. We can help cross out some of those risk factors that we see that are maybe impacting them. So how do we support our kids? How do we build positive peer support? How do we build safe environments? I told the kids earlier, I said, it saddens me to think that 1 in 4 kids would report that they don't have an adult in their life that they feel cares about them besides outside of their parents. That is heartbreaking because if we want to instill hope, it's going to be very hard for them to see that if they don't feel like they're supported. As you look within your own families or within your circles or those that you help mentor or look over, make sure your values are clear. Your job is to keep them safe and to be consistent. Your job is not to be their friend. Be mindful of family history. Like I said, things like trauma, things like addiction in the family can make it a higher risk. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Those of you that had kids in my session earlier, they may throw that line out at you, just so you know. They're not being sassy. They're just being truthful. Because a lot of the times we want to interject. We want to, essentially make them, think that there's something that maybe is going on. The whole, when I was a kid, I did this and I turned out fine, or this never was a thing when I was a kid. I don't get it. What's wrong with you? We really need to look at what happened to you. What's drawing them to that point? We all have the opportunity to advocate. And I've really pushed this hard with the kids today. Tell people, if you are the experts in your own lives, talk to them. Tell them. What is the things that you need? What is it that you want? What do you see as the main issues in the community? Because people are moved in their heads, in their hearts, and in their hands. Some people love the data and the outcomes. Some people like the stories and the testimonials. And some people just want to be part of something, to be part of the action. But when it comes to the community, it's not those people, it's our people. So when it comes to identifying if somebody's maybe using, trust your instincts. You know your kids. You know the kids that are around you. You know the people that are around you. There are physical signs that you may see. You may see bloodshot eyes. You may see dilated pupils. You may see them moving differently. They may seem intoxicated, but you're like, they don't smell like they've been drinking. A lot of those cannabis products, there's such a high THC, even in the ones that are supposedly, under the hemp law, that they may look drunk or act drunk, but they may also look like they're on meth or some of the other high powerful stimulants. What are those behavior changes that you're seeing? Are they hanging out with new people? Are they becoming more withdrawn? Are you catching them in more lies? That's probably one of the things I saw in my own kids. Stepmom to 3, 20, 18, and going to be 17 next week. The lies that I saw in our oldest 2 that have a history of substance use was astounding. They couldn't help themselves at one point because they were trying to foster that addiction. So ask those questions, test them, evaluate them. Get to know what it looks like if a person is using. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our school staff and talk a little bit about what kind of things they're doing within the schools. And if I could have you use the mic, because we do have our Facebook Live going. But a policy and a procedure is only good if we enforce it, right? What does that look like? How do we train people in identifying if somebody's using? How do we look at those policies? How do we connect people to things like alternatives to suspension to get them into treatment if that's what they need? So I'll have you guys come on up, and then you can share about the Air We Share as well, the youth group that's going on here. So if you have questions specifically what's happening within the school, these are your ladies.
And so I guess I would say for part of this, if you have something specific, please don't be afraid to ask, email, come up and talk with us afterwards if you have a specific question. All of our policies, everything can be found in our code of conduct, so I don't want to kind of go through all of that. We do right now, I think, have a focus on the educational piece, which is, I think, a big part. Any students, we know kids make mistakes, and so part of that is the education of when students are back, making sure they're meeting with the counselor, doing the modules, so they're getting whether it's the THC or the nicotine, and things like that. We do have drug testing. We actually recently changed to a test swab, which is kind of the oral of the mouth. So there's lots of different things that we're kind of doing. Again, I don't want to take you through all of that, but if you have any questions, please reach out. I'm more than happy to have those discussions. I oversee student services, so this is kind of my life, which is crazy, but I love it. So please feel free to ask any kind of questions. I'm sorry, I did at the beginning, but I didn't again this time. I am Sarah Hendricks. I am one of the assistant principals here. So thank you guys all. And I know Crystal, another one of our assistant principals who was wonderful enough to help set all of this up, is going to discuss the Air We Share.
All right, Crystal Wheeler. I'm, like she said, another assistant principal here at the high school. I oversee our clubs, and so last year, one of the clubs that was started was the Air We Share Club and an anti-vape club. It's been doing pretty well. They meet regularly on the first Tuesday of every month, so November 4th is the next meeting. They talk about prevention strategies. There's a couple of these out there. If you were interested, just grab one, take them home if you wanted to join. The next meeting is on the 4th. They created this logo last year and created t-shirts, and so they're going to have another round of them coming again. And so, I don't know, we're just super happy about the club and the success they've had this year, and super happy that Melissa could be here with us tonight. So,
Thank you. You're welcome. So in our last few minutes here, I just want to share with you guys, we know what doesn't work. I think a lot of the times, the comments I hear is like, well, we need to get in the school and tell these kids how bad it is, and we need to have people that are in recovery go in and tell their story. And some of the, I know it's well-meaning, but a couple things. We do study what works and what doesn't. I'll go through a couple things specifically in a second here. There's a whole guide in that drive on this. But also, I think it's important to ask the kids what it is that they need. That's one of the things that I think we miss the opportunity for them to advocate for themselves. And when we talk about what works, having peer groups, having positive peer interactions is definitely one of the top of the list. Making the healthy choice the easy choice, looking at speaking the truth. It's not about myths and facts. I'm not talking that. I mean, just being honest, not really blowing things out of proportion and kind of that whole idea of scare tactics. I have seen so many people using like the nasty pictures and, oh, your arm's going to fall off if you use this substance and look at your meth mouth and all the things. Odds are they know someone or know of someone. They're like, that didn't happen to them. You automatically lost your credibility. Scare tactics definitely don't work. Things like mock car crashes don't work. Personal testimonials, while they may be impactful, I know a lot of people remember the story, but it doesn't necessarily impact their behavior. So when we talk about changing their behaviors, these type of things don't work. When we look at the different events and assemblies, part of that is continuing the conversation moving forward. So the teachers got information today. You guys are getting information tonight. The youth had information today. They have discussion questions that they're going to have within their classrooms to be able to look at how do we continue to have these conversations. So we need to kind of get past some of the different things, like dropping knowledge on people, doing things like role-playing or using things like drunk goggles. We really need to put those things away because we know that they don't work. Probably in this one, all kids are at risk. Some of them are at a higher risk, absolutely, but all kids are at risk. We never know. I have 3 kids. I do drug prevention. I talk about mental health and suicidality. 2 of my 3 kids struggle with addiction and have suicidal ideation, one of which he actually self-committed himself for a weekend because of his suicidality. So even though we have these ideas in mind of who this kid is, I would love to see this room full of folks, because it's not about those kids, it's about our kids, right? And the whole idea of calling people a loser, calling people a junkie, we have the opportunity to help reduce that stigma, because we are all impacted by this. And we all really do play part of the solution, because we never know. There's been times where I'd been in rooms and been like, how many people have been impacted by addiction? And maybe a couple hands would go up. And I do that now and everybody's hands goes up. So I do think we need to look at it this way. And it doesn't take big numbers to make meaningful change. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. This was a message that I said with the kids today. I said, it doesn't have to be the whole school moving in one direction. It starts with one person. It starts with 2 people. It starts with an idea and a focus and a passion. But one of the things that I think we forget, and these are just my last thoughts, is that we all get on the struggle bus sometimes. We all are overwhelmed. We all are overworked. We all are underpaid. We all have one more load of laundry to do and one more meal to make. Don't forget to take care of yourself so you could be there for those that are around you. Practice your own self-care habits. You can't pour from that empty cup. I mean, some of these things are so cliche, but whatever that is, for me, give me a chair where my feet can dangle. It's the little things for me. I told the kids earlier, I said, if you see me driving in my Sportage rental, and I'm playing the air guitar and the drums and driving at the same time and singing, I got the whole band. That's my self-care. I probably shouldn't do that so much. It kind of taxes the voice, but create your self-care habits. If it's 5 minutes of scrolling, if it's 5 minutes of silence, whatever you need to do, because unless someone like you cares an awful lot, nothing's going to get better. It's not. So this is just my evaluation. You don't have to worry about that. I do want to see if there's any questions. We are about 15 minutes left in our scheduled time. Again, I'll stick around. But I do encourage you, grab a card. Those of you that are in the virtual space, those of you that are viewing this as a recording, definitely take the opportunity, sign up for that newsletter. It's a way to keep you connected to some of the trends. And I'm going to leave this up as the end slide, so then if people want to open that up as a Google Drive, but this will get to you guys, it'll get sent out. But is there any questions? Anything you've heard of, anything that you're concerned about? Again, I'll stick around. We don't have to do a whole big group thing. Okay. Thank you. You guys are awesome. I'm going to turn it back over to the ladies over here.
All right, thank you guys. Thank you to all those who stream from home. Make sure you guys grab some cookies on the way out. Take some home to your kids, water, or to the firehouse, wherever you're leaving to.
You guys got lots of pockets.
Yes, you guys have lots of pockets.
That's why you got cargo.
So anyways, let's give Melissa one more round of applause. Thank you for your time tonight. We appreciate you all being here.